Well, have good days. We're back to can't get on Facebook, not for a live stream. So I'm sorry, team. We'll do a record and it'll have to get uploaded. And I'm sorry, folks on Facebook, because it's not going to be live today. So this was sort of an important day because I had a big aha. And it happened because I started to notice, feels like folks are getting ready to go and fight one another again. It feels like people are getting back in the corners and wanting to come out with their dukes up at each other because they can't seem to figure out what to do about this virus, the pandemic. And so we're going back to trying to figure out who to blame or what to do. So I thought, oh, okay, well, you know, here's the good part about what I've done for about 40 years now, and for sure with Positive Approach for the last 15. Dementia is this enemy, if you want to look at it that way, that we can't see. In other words, it's a condition that we can't cure. We haven't even figured out exactly how to slow it down or make it not happen to people that we care about. It's invisible, it sneaks in, it changes things. Some people have one set of symptoms and some people have really different symptoms. But if people get it, have it. Now, the thing about dementia that's a little different is actually everybody who gets dementia ends up having dementia. It's a terminal illness and eventually they will pass, but until they pass, they live. And it all depends on what we choose to do about those symptoms and how we create an environment and a care routine that allows the person to be as able as they are, supports them where they are, connects them to what's important, and creates spaces. And that is done with people, not for people or to people, in order to get the best outcomes for everybody involved. And here's the other thing that's very similar. For people living with dementia, about 50% of people who have dementia don't understand that what they have is dementia, because from where they're standing, where they're sitting, where they're living, they don't see that they are changing, that they have symptoms and indications that their brain is changing. The people around them might know that, but they don't. And so trying to figure out how to provide the right support and assistance without it feeling like I'm doing to you becomes a whole different skill set. So I say all that because I think what we've figured out, for sure what I've figured out by working in the world of dementia for quite a while, and as far as I know, not particularly having dementia, but being very aware in the work of so many years with so many people and so many situations, that each person is unique and each situation is different. And yet when we put them all together, there are patterns. And I'm very into recognizing patterns and figuring out what works in this situation, what works in that situation. In other words, I'm into using skill to get everybody, if at all possible, in an okay place, rather than deciding which one's right and which one's wrong. And because basically, if both people feel like they're right, trying to change somebody's mind who's already made it up, it's really difficult. So what I figured out, my aha, was, okay, so I'm starting to see the same pattern develop for coronavirus 19. So this is what we should do. No, this is what we should do. This is, I don't, no, don't. And part of it is because just like dementia, it threatens everything I've known as a human being. It changes everything for me. And in some situations, if I fight it, I feel like I can get in control. In other situations, I feel like if I hide from it and don't get involved in it, I'll be in control. And in some situations, even if I do one or the other and it happens, well, then where do I fit? Am I the enemy? Am I the one nobody wants to be with? So we're getting to this place where should we reconnect or shouldn't we? How should we reconnect? And I went back and I thought, well, you know, I think the basic issue is that the reason social distancing has gotten to be such a call phrase, a consideration, a behavior, is because we don't actually do a very good job at hygiene when we're together. And it has a lot to do with human beings and what human beings need to survive and how they survive. And so some of the work I've done, I've created the idea that humans can basically hold on to about 5 things at a time, but they can only hold on to one new idea and then 4 familiar related things when they're trying to do something in a difficult situation. So it turns out also that human beings do a lot better if you give them something to do rather than tell them just don't do something. Don't do doesn't tell a human brain or a human body or human eyes or human mouths or human hands what to do. And humans are not made to do nothing. I mean, that's not how we're designed. That's not how we function. And so if we go back to the very core things, maybe what might be more helpful is coming up with positive action statements, positive action starters, ways to go from where we are to where we want to be. So here's my thought. Here's a phrase that it's part of the lexicon, and it's one of the issues when we get closer than social distance and we don't isolate ourselves and don't connect and don't touch and don't move and don't go out, is that humans are made to use their hands to do just about everything for themselves, but they're also the tools we use to do things in the world, and they are also the tools that we use to help others. And so these things we call hands, but humans also use their mouths, their faces to connect and communicate and do things with others. We talk. We all have to breathe to survive. We look at things. And so if that's the case, that's just how humans are made, then let's think hard about this statement. Don't touch your face with your hands. Well, the question should be, well, how do you expect me to survive? And that's actually the problem. Because what we want to be able to do is recognize the difference between using my hands to touch another human to provide support or care in any way, shape, or form, to touch objects in the world that the two of us might share or surfaces, and then to touch myself, or to touch myself and then touch you, to touch myself and then, because anytime there's this touch of me and then a touch of you, or a touch of you and then a touch of me, or a touch of me and a touch of there, and then you touch that and touch yourself, well, that's where this thing we're concerned about, the virus, has a chance to go from me to you, you to the surface to me, me to the surface. It's a triangle. And so when do we want to wash our hands? And what do we want to do before I switch from caring for me to caring for you? When do I want to switch from caring for me and doing something on a surface that you're going to touch? Or maybe do I want to do it after I touch it, before you touch it? Because see, there's that triangle. And when I care for you, should I wash my hands before I care for me? So that idea of really starting to understand, when do I need to wash these? And it turns out it's between when. So it would really help if we could start rehearsing, well, I need to first notice when the betweens happen, because the way we lived before this virus was we were less concerned about it. You know, unless there was an active outbreak of some kind of other virus, or we knew there were some bacteria around, we didn't worry about that too much. So who had the highest regard for it? Well, healthcare workers. But healthcare workers used devices and special things when they were in a high-risk situation. And I truly believe they should still do that in those high-risk situations, because they're at the highest risk, and those are the riskiest situations. But when we're in a low-risk situation, simply remembering and noticing and then doing hand washing. And then we get to the second thing that I think people assume, but it's not. What's what's the value of washing your hands? What are you really trying to do with it? And so we've gotten really wrapped up in this antimicrobials and hand sanitizers and stuff. But actually, let's talk about why we should wash our hands. Well, we should wash our hands, frankly, because if there is live virus, particularly this norovirus, if there is a germ on your hand, if there is a germ on the surface that you've got on your hands, if you've got bacteria, if you've got dirt, if you've got particles from something or someone, what you want to do is get them off you before you touch you. Get them off you before you touch someone else. And so the most important part for getting particles off is the rubbing. The water is what lifts stuff off and gets rid of it. And the soap, when it comes to corona, any soap, it's emulsified. So it has a fat combined with a base in it, and it forms a molecule. And either end of it, the cool part about it is one end likes water and the other end likes fat. And so what happens, and it picks stuff up. And so what it does is it breaks the outside boundaries on a virus and makes it inactive. In other words, it kills it. So we kill virus, but we get rid of particles, we get rid of germs, and then when we rinse, oh, there it goes. Now, the important thought is to get rid of the extra moisture on your hands, because moisture is a good conductor. So you get those drying things and you dry off. Now, we've typically used paper towels. Yeah, why? Because they're considered sanitary and they can be disposed of and possibly recycled with the right hygiene techniques. So paper is a good absorber. Yeah. Now we want to be thoughtful. And so people actually have to think about, how do you turn things on and off? Because if I touched the faucet with a hand that had the germs and the virus on it, and then when I'm done washing my hands, I were to touch the faucet again, oh, well, now I might have that back on there. So that's where I use that paper towel that I've been using, and I push it with that. And I drop that paper towel in the trash, but I might want to pick up another paper towel on my way out of the bathroom area, the washroom area, the sink area, if there is a door. And basically for any opening thing, I may want to use a clean paper towel. Why? Yeah, you're getting the drift here. So here's my proposal. I think the new guideline should be a pretty simple one. And I actually had to write it down because it's a different way of saying what we tend to say. So on that first one, the guideline is, I wash my hands between touching me, touching you, and touching the things we share. I wash my hands between touching me, touching you, and touching the things we share. I wash my hands between touching me, touching you, touching the things we share. How about you two? So in other words, what am I advocating? I'm advocating that we start owning what it is we're scared of, owning what it is we can control, and really start to look at what we've said and what we've tried to do and what's working and what's not. And rather than just saying, I refuse to be isolated, say, I wonder if there's some things we could do when we come out of this place of social distance and isolation and start interacting. It doesn't stop there. That's my first example. And for Teepa, for 10, I think I may have overstayed. But frankly, I thought it was worth the visit. So take a look at this and think about this and consider this. I absolutely think we can come back together. But I think if we aren't careful with how we do that, we stand the risk of harming one another after all this. And we are in this together. And together, we can make different choices. And so what do I advocate for? Pack more than ever. Positive approach to caring for one another more than ever. And the first person you want to learn how to care for is you. But it's going to take a partner to help you notice when you may be skipping steps, when you maybe skip something. And I think it's time to tell people, stop doing something and instead give them something positive to focus on, something effective to help with, something that we know can make a difference. And let's start doing it. Let's start doing it no matter where we are, no matter who we are. Let's own ourselves and let's make a difference. for me, because when I do it and I do it well, I'm actually taking care of you. Ooh, and we need to talk about that care thing, but I'll do that tomorrow. I hope I've given you some food for positive action. Take care.
Hey folks, thanks for watching. Please like and subscribe to help us spread Teepa's positive approach message around the world. And don't forget to click the bell to get notified when new videos are posted.